All right, so this is the Monday, February 24th, 6:45 late webinar. Today we're going to be going over points and payouts, global point schemes, lineup point schemes, creating payouts, the 1099 report, and other payout reports. So it should be a lot of fun. If you have any questions about that, or anything we go over, Alt and H is the place to do that. I'll be answering all the questions that come my way. Feel free to ask any questions. If I don't get to your question, that's okay. I will be getting to it when there's a good time to go through it. And don't be afraid to ask any questions. It is your time to do so, and I'm always happy to answer any questions that you may have. So let's get started. We're going to start up here. Instead of season management, we can also go to race management. And when we get into there, there's going to be a settings page. So let's go there now. We'll get to that settings page, and we'll get to the points and payouts. We've actually changed it quite a bit since last season. So it's going to look a little bit different for you. All of your existing you might have this question since we've separated this out. So we've separated out this is the lineup point scheme. So this is for passing points. This is all the payout. And this is all the championship points. So you might be wondering what happened to all of your points pay schemes. They're all there. We just separated them all out. So you might see some of them listed in twice. If you do, that's fine. They're all listed here, like I said. So all the ones that you used. So we separated those out. This actually allows us a lot more flexibility to do things like partial night calculation of points in a way that makes sense. So one that actually kind of works out is, let's say we have a big show and we want to pay out all of the people who were involved in the heats first, but did not transfer into the A feature. Because we did it this way, we can do that. So if we have all the heats done, we can do that. It'll calculate out the payout for us, and due to the way that we have it set up, if we have it set up such that so many people transfer out to the features, it'll keep track of that for us, and we can print off all the reports and things. So that's why we separated it out, kind of as an overview. It lets us do more in that kind of area. We've also added a lot inside of here. As far as managing them, when you add a new one, we can add a brand new, again, this is championship points, so this is for the season. Lineup points, which are going to be the passing point schemes that you're going to be using. This is going to be payout. We also have the global/sanction reports. So the global, or not reports, global/sanction schemes. So these are going to be schemes that are based on specific sanctions. So all the passing points are in here. All the global points are in here. So here's the old WISSOTA one. Passing points for WISSOTA. They're national. There's USRA, IMCA. All those are in there based on the rules that are on their official rules. So we went through there. If their official rules were ever to change, we will update that there. So things like knowing who gets points when they transfer out, like the IMCA ones, or minimum car counts, all that's baked into these schemes already. Let's create a new one here so we can actually do our championship. Let's do Feb Web in R. We're going to see, here's the new screen. It's going to be a bit different layout, but the idea is going to be kind of the same. So I'll start here at the top. We can change the name here, add a description. So if I was creating this, let's say I was creating it for one of my scorers, so that they knew, or someone else was using this, I could add a description. They'll see that. We can see why we did that. So I can put that in. This is for practice. We can put in the show up points. So this is if a driver completes any single lap, they will receive these show up points, unless we put in other stuff. I'll show you what I mean by that. And this is for drivers who don't complete a single lap at anything, get the non-start points. It'll work the same for pay. We also can have a minimum starting races, so they must start at least this many races to receive points for any of the breakdowns. So we could set it so that they have to start at least one race, so they have to start at least their feature or at least their heat, however you wanted to do that. You can get a lot more specific with these now. We can copy a breakdown, so if we wanted to copy over one of the ones that we've done before, we can do that. And we can add a breakdown. So what we're going to do here, we're going to add what type of race we're giving these points to. So we're going to make it to the A feature, so it's going to match up to that A feature. I'm going to make it so that drivers who make it to this race don't receive the show up points, so no matter what we put in here, they won't get those. We also can get it so they get passing points for these. So we can give them positions gained or lost if we wanted to do that. You're going to see that we have a lot more of these, a lot more information here than before. So all of these are part of the partner plan. The partner plan gets to mess around with the modifiers and class minimums and things. But if we wanted to do our own, we could. So here we can actually set it so that drivers who didn't finish, what do they receive? So didn't finish, we can receive full points. We can give them only position points, only passing points, no points at all. So we can do that. Drivers who didn't start, we can give them a custom points. So let's say I wanted drivers who didn't start to receive 40 points. So if they qualify for the feature but don't make it, we can give them points for disqualifications. So we can give them full points for disqualification. If we want to, same with the black flag, give them full points if they get black flagged. That is your discretion. So this isn't going to be reflective of anybody's anything here, but just showing you that you can do that if you so choose. Same with the minimum competitors. So here we can actually add in a minimum number of competitors that have to finish the race. So I'm actually going to say that 10 people do, and if there's less than 10 drivers in the race, I take out 2 for everything, so all positions. So let's do this here. So it's going to ask for this first place here. So we could do something where, well, actually, let's do this another way. So we'll add 20, or gosh, if I could type. We could add 20 positions. We'll start our points off at 100. I'll decrease them by 5, and I'll hit add. It'll add it in a row based on how I want to do that kind of linearly. If your points don't work like that, that's totally fine. You can actually adjust them in here, or you could set the positions lower and kind of work through it there. I'm just doing this just as a demonstration. But let's say we actually just wanted to do 20th place got 7. You'll also notice down here at the bottom, you're going to get a 21 plus. So what this does, we put in this 5. We don't have to put in any other positions. So if what it's going to do right now is 21st through infinity will get 5 points if they're in this race. So if we start 30 people, 21st on through 30th will get 5 points right now, the way that we have it set up. And that's what this little plus mark means right there. So we don't have to add in a bunch of positions. So if I wanted to do something, let's add a heat here, or just anybody here who just shows up and races a heat, we could give it 10 points. So right now, as it stands, every single driver will get 10 points if they finish the race. So that's something. We also have an excluded transfers. You're going to see that down at the bottom. So we'll make a B feature, and I'll show you what that will do. So B feature might be some place where you use this plus a lot. So somewhere where I would see it, you have something like this. So every driver gets 45 points for just being in the B feature, but we don't want people who transfer out to get that 45 points. And that's what this is for right down here. This A feature, any driver that transfers out of the A or transfers out of the B into the A won't receive that. And that even works if you're doing something like a provisional. So let's say there was a B feature driver that you just transferred out just because, or put him in there just as a last minute replacement. It will adjust for that inside of here. So any driver that was in the B but is now in the A will not receive those 45 points. So that's some pretty cool things that you have there. You can get real in depth with it. Same with the point scheme. So I'm going to go through that. So you're going to know this is the pay. It's going to look very similar. That's kind of by design. And the pay will work pretty much the same way. So we could add, let's do 250, do 20 positions. I'll decrease them by 10. Kind of save it there. So now we have a pay scheme in general here that we can do. Same here, we can do some modifiers with those pay. So we can pay specific amounts there if we have that partner plan. We can really get in depth with that. Same with the show up pay, we can make it so that the drivers don't receive that. Same with that B feature there, that excluded transfers. So the big difference is that you're setting them up separately. This allows you to do a bunch of cool things in sort of partial calculation there. A question, so you can change the pay on the side? Yep, we can change the pay right here. So if I want to do 85, 75, 60, do something like that. Think of this, the positions gained decreasing by. That's a really good way to just kind of add in kind of the structure, how many positions and things like that, and to also, so you don't have to type out every single one. So we'll do the B. Everybody that's in the B, we'll give them 20 bucks, but they don't get that if they transfer out. With the partner plan, if you don't have a partner plan, you will not get access to the modifiers on that. But a lot of those points and pay, or a lot of those points features work into, or the reason you want to use those in general, a lot of those are built into the globals. So a lot of the minimum competitors, things like that. But yeah, these new result modifiers are a partner feature. But I want to show it just so that everyone knows what all those look like. Lineup point schemes, I'll show that one too. Lineup point schemes are going to look very similar. So you might, so generally with lineup point schemes, they're going to be for the heat. In general, 99% of the time. I don't actually think I've ever seen people use passing points for something other than a heat. You can do that. And again, you're just going to set this here. So it's the same sort of deal here. I'm going to use ASCS here to kind of show what this looks like. So ASCS and all the global ones, you won't be able to change. Those are set. They're preset global ones. You can see here, if you have a chart, you might notice that the chart, or based on how they have their chart, it has all the different positions kind of done up. But the way that you would read this, if you had the ASCS chart, that middle line or that cross line that goes across, which is if they finished, like finished first, started first to be 100, and then you'll notice they either go up by 5, so finished, started second, finished first to be 98, So you have 93 plus 5, that kind of deal. If you have any questions about your passing points when you're setting them up, or how to use those in a race, let us know. We can go over that. I believe we do have a one of these webinars in the future that does go over passing points and what you need to do with that. But this is going to be the first step. You can set up your own. You can also use a global preset. All the global presets are free for anybody. Well, they come with all of the plans available. So they're plus, platinum, or partner. Anybody can use a global preset for any reason you want. But you can also create your own here with those. So a lot of those, you can have multiple. You can have as many of these as you want. You also can see when they were last used. So you can see there's some that I haven't ever used. You can also copy them over, so you can copy one. So if you have one that's pretty much the same, but the winner gets more points, you can do that. You also can delete them, or if you don't want them to appear anymore, but you still want to keep it, you can also set them as inactive. So all of these here, I like them. I need them at some point, but I don't need them right now. We can set them to inactive, and then those won't appear on the list when I go to apply points and pay. In fact, I'll show you here the new how the new points and pay will work. I've completed this race already, and you can see that it'll remember the most recently used point scheme that I used, which was an IMCA one. We can use the February webinar one that we used, and the same with the pay. So it'll remember the most recent one that I used, and all of the other inactive ones that I put in here are gone, and I removed all those. So it'll remember that, and it'll apply that pay here based on that. So they are all separated. All of your old points and pay schemes are still there. We just separated them out. So you still have them. If you went in there, they're all still going to be there. We didn't change or do anything, but we did split all of them up. But you can now manage those a lot easier inside of the points pay schemes. If you want to see all of your old points pay schemes, you can go to the disabled. You can see that I have a bunch. One that I would really like you to ignore, or either, or active. So you can see all of the different lineup points pay schemes here. If you have any questions about how those would work, Alt and H is the place to do that. Answer any questions that you may have. Don't be shy. Odds are, if you have a question, someone else has that same question as well. So let's create some payouts. So I've done that here. Based on the points pay, you saw me do it. I'm going to delete this here. I'll show you it again. So we have a couple different things here. We have our points scheme or pay scheme. We can pick which schedule we want to add this to. So if you had multiple schedules, you can add it to that. We can apply it to competitors, which is the driver themselves, owners, which is the car owner, or teams, which is to the car. So these two are slightly different. So the way this will work is that owners can get points for more than one car. So if I owned 3 cars in the pack, I will get each of those cars points combined. So if Zach got 10 points, Ross got 9 points, and Chris got 1 point, I would get 20 points for the night. I'd combine them all together. Teams is I would get 10, 9, and 1. The car itself is individual. For these to apply, you do have to add owners to the car inside of the entry list. Otherwise, they won't get anything. These right over here, this competitor, we can uncheck this, and they will be ineligible to receive points if they have this. So somewhere I see this a lot is membership. Say you have a track membership. If people don't do the membership for the track, they don't get any points. You can do that. They'll still receive pay. And if we uncheck this and check this box to award the position to the next eligible competitor, it'll give those points to the next person on down, and it'll kind of shift the list. So if first place wasn't a member and I wasn't going to give him points, we can check that box. Second place gets points, and it works all its way down. So that's what all these buttons do. We can enter a points group name. I would really only do that, though, if I was making multiple points groups. You don't have to name these if you don't want to. This is just for your benefit there. Let's add them. And bam, points and pay are added in here. We can make our adjustments over here to the side if we'd like. Let's say I made a mistake. So I chose sprint car. I didn't mean to. I wanted to use the Wednesday webinar one that I made back on Wednesday. I just hit the recalculate button and calculate it again, and it's changed all those amounts for me. We want to make sure when we're doing recalculations that we hit this button right here, this big one that says recalculate, and do not hit this one to add an additional points pay group. See, we also added a recalculate here, but we can add an additional points pay group right here. So recalculate, we'll just redo all of the points, and it'll recalculate it how we want to do it with a new scheme. Add an additional points pay group is used for, if I had a different schedule, or I could use this for double points or double pay, so I could give everything again. So this is going to do it twice. So when I add it in here, which I will, now instead of having just 40 points, Gary Grouse here has 80 points and $1,200. You can see the 2 points groups right up here. It has a drop down. So keep that in mind. We added a lot of warnings. It has come up, though. People have used the additional points groups and have duplicated points and pay unintentionally. So they didn't want to do that, and they did there. So just keep an eye out. Use the recalculate button instead. There are uses for adding additional points and pay groups. Say you're applying points to 2 separate schedules. You could do that. So say one group got IMCA points, the other group got my own special one. We could do that. We do the 2 different groups, but you want to try to avoid that if that's not what you're doing. Also, with points, another thing to keep in mind is that points are a lot like old Polaroid pictures. They are a snapshot of what happened exactly when you calculated them. So what I mean by that is if I go into my results here, and I go into my feature, Tech actually came in and said that Gary Grouse is a cheat. He just put in a rocket car, wasn't even a sprint car at all. I don't even know what he was doing. He was disqualified. So it's still going to move him to the bottom, and it's still a snapshot of what happened. So he still has these points because it took the picture. The picture didn't change. So we're just going to recalculate that. And recalculating that, that's like taking a new picture. So we'll recalculate that, and then it'll be updated. You can see that Gary gets no points, no pay for being a dirty cheat. Everyone else gets more. So that's another thing to keep in mind. So if there is changes that happen after you do everything, you'll have to make sure you recalculate, and that will kind of put in everything where it needs to be. Down at the bottom here, we're gonna have that create payments. I'd highly advise you create payments. You might see that you have the check here. Don't worry about that. You can create checks if you want to. You don't have to adjust this type, but we do want to make sure we're creating payments, because that creating payments works into a lot of the new reports that we made. To go off these payments, the payments are going to be the accurate count of what was actually paid and what was owed. So if we did something here too, we could adjust it. This is going to be, as far as the system was concerned, this amount right here, what was actually paid to the driver. This is kind of like the last double check, and that's going to be used for the report that I'll show in just a bit. So these payments here can be managed inside of the payments inside of season management. And if they change, so let's say I just put in the wrong the wrong payment again. I just haven't been doing it right. So this is actually the correct payment. You'll just go in and create payments again. That'll update the tally here at the bottom. So this one actually paid our DQ driver. So this will update that count. Also note that if I was to do something like delete this pay scheme, so it said it's been used to create payments, and we do it, that's going to cause, we have to do a few other things. So I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So to do that, I'm going to go to the report here, and I'm going to show off the new yearly payout report. So this new yearly payout report, pretty awesome. It does have the addresses that we have from online registration. So if you're in the earlier show, you saw me do the online registration, saw how that worked, saw how the address was fed into here. It also has all the total earnings. So let's take a look at our guy, Gary. He got paid $40 for that last show. So also we have individual breakdowns for where everyone got their pay and why. So on each date, where they got that pay, what that was. So you can look up here and find all of that. So we'll take a look at Gary Grouse. And you see right down here, it has this spot. We have all these different dates that he's raced, but he has this spot here, that $40. So this $40 here comes from that old payment group that I deleted. So since I deleted that payment group, it's still there. It's still counting it. As far as the system's concerned, it still did everything as it needed to. So if you notice anything like that, if you're looking through here and you see, oh, there's this crossed off line and it doesn't have an event date, we can find it. So if we find any event dates like these, so these right here where it says it didn't find that points group, we can open those. These are all the bad points groups. It's still counting because as far as the system knows, we did pay these people this amount of money, but we'll just have to zero out if we zero this out, we can look on here, go back to the event date, it shows a 0. That's going to be what we're looking for. So try to avoid deleting points groups if you can. You really shouldn't need to do it since you can just recalculate to fix it. But if you have something like this where you kind of removed it and you notice that things seem a little off and you see these dashes here, that's why. So we can go back to our guy Gary. It's removed that money, so it's not in there anymore. So it's still keeping track. We want to make sure that all of these payments here, since they were applied, we want to make sure that they are still being counted. But we also want to make sure that if you do have any that are extraneous, that you go through and you zero those out. And just create the payments down at the bottom. Like I said, you don't have to keep track of how you did it or what you paid them, but make sure you do that because that feeds into this report. This one works out very, very well. It also automatically sorts by 600 and up. So every one of my drivers that has made $600, you can do that. See it. I also just double check all competitors here. Make sure that I have. This is a good spot to see if you have any duplicates and where those duplicates are, because that could conceivably happen. Say you had a duplicate who's racing one class and a duplicate in another. Really, ideally, we want to keep track of payment data. So we had a question: if we delete the points and pay group, why wouldn't just delete the payment? Because we want to keep an accurate count of exactly what happened. So we want to create an exact count of what exactly was paid too. So creating a payment, when you create that payment, as far as the system knows, it still did that. And we want to make sure that We are preventing kind of accidental deletion or accidental tampering of it. So it's also kind of a check and balance there. So that's why it doesn't do that. But it's pretty easy to zero them out. You saw that I zeroed it out fairly quickly. So we have a question. If a driver races two different classes, will it know to combine them at the 1099 report? Yes. So all of my drivers are race a lot of different classes all at the same time. So you can actually see that right here. This guy has raced 4-ish classes. So it's combining all of that together. I will note though that it won't know if they are an owner or a driver. So it doesn't know it doesn't know if they are an owner that just has a very similar name or as a driver. So if you want to correct someone that when you created payments, you recalculate it and you go down to create payments and it'll adjust everything. There's no need for you to delete payments at all or to delete a points group. So as long as you go in and recalculate it and go down to create payments, it'll adjust it, which is what I showed there. And I'll actually do that. So so I deleted it, but let's roll with it. So recalculated this, so they're getting about $2,000. So we'll create that payment down here. So Pepe will get an extra 2. So let's go down to Pepe. So 2020. So it gets paid the current year. Lucky him. But I made a mistake. So if I made a mistake in the payment, go back here to points pay. I'll recalculate it. Let's make it pretty dramatic. So I'll give him my sport compact pay. So it's 200. Create payments down here. It's not 200. It's 200 here. So really, you should never need to delete a payment or delete a point/pay scheme, which is another reason I warned about those groups. But that would be, so it's a pretty quick fix though. As long as you always make sure, so if things changed, that you just make sure that you hit create payments again. And again, we don't even have to worry about anything in that. We can also, like I said, if we create checks, it'll keep track of those checks for us, which is another reason. So let's say you did print off checks with the wrong points pay group. You did actually print off a check, as far as everyone knows, inside of here. So we go back. So if we deleted this, we'd have that there. If you do have any other questions, you can reach out. Alt and H is a spot to do that. I believe you've asked that already, and I have submitted that request to the development team to have the car number on it, if you so choose. But that would be for this report, I take it? Yep. Yep. Put that one into the request there. So we're good to go. No, if you so the question is, if you a check was issued to the driver and you wrote a manual check because it said it would to the owner. So what would happen? So let's add an owner. So let's recreate this scenario. So let's say my driver didn't tell me he had an owner until way later, and we wanted to do that. So we'll go into here. We'll give Pepe a owner. So we'll edit our entry. Great name for a team there. Make sure we click the box here to do the owner. Then in points and pay, we'll just need to create the payment. So it has a mismatch because the system knows that before we had given him a check for $200. So we'll zero out that check and we'll void the check here. So if you even did it manually, you can do that. So I voided this check and I could just reprint just the check I wanted to do. So be 107 to Jude. If I wanted to keep track or just reprint it. So you just make sure that you zero out if they've done it. Because if you've given them a check, the system doesn't know why it did that. It's not, it's good, but it doesn't know every single thing that could possibly happen. So you have to tell it that, hey, we didn't pay him $200, so that's why you had to zero him out. But you can see that it updated him here. So, and it also will keep it twice, so it'll count him twice as well. So it had the 200 because it assumes you paid him 200, assumes you paid him 200. It doesn't know what's going on, so that's why we had to zero it out. And it highlighted it yellow for being a mismatch. I had a question to split it for 50-50 if they prefer it that way. No, it's going to be all or nothing. If the driver wants to sign off his money, he can. I would just say that it's all or nothing. It's a lot easier for everybody, and then if they want to figure that out on their own, they can. Would be what I would do. I suppose you could also do the pay amount and change the pay amount in here in the box if you wanted to. But like I said, I wouldn't advise it just on a, it's possible, but I wouldn't advise it. Let's put it that way. I think it could get really messy if you didn't remember that that happened down the line. And I would just tell them to do all or nothing. You know. So no, great questions though about everything. I'm gonna give you guys some time to write some more questions. No, it's no, checks are pretty awesome. It's nice to have it. It's just a little bit extra layer of accounting for everything that it's doing. So I know it seems like a lot, but it's not too bad. It keeps track of everything here. Also, if you did want to, you can switch it up here, but this is just for your own benefit. So if you wanted to remember why everyone was paid such ways, you were. You don't need to worry about it though. Otherwise, just use the pay. So we have another webinar tomorrow at the same times, going over online registration in detail, confirming drivers, what that looks like, more about duplicate drivers, online tickets, dropship apparel, so that's our apparel program, and common questions that come up. And so if you have any questions, that's going to be a spot there. I'm going to leave it open for questions about everything that's MyRacePass related. MyRacePass related I can do. Other common questions you might be on your own. And even better for the bad jokes, those will be there in full force on Tuesday. Then we'll be doing webinars on Wednesday the 4th, March 4th, the day that is also a sentence. We're going to be going over full race nights for WISSOTA and IMCA. And if I get enough people asking for it, I might do some passing points as well. Show off how passing points work. And then the one after that is March 7th, which is a full race night. and so that one will definitely do some passing points there. Checks the whole nine. That's going to be at a different time on Saturday, 3:15 and 5:30 on the Saturday shows. So a little different time, but should be a lot of fun. The Saturday show. But yeah, that's the next three that are available there. Will be that one. But yep, Alt and H is the spot to ask questions. I'm going to leave it open here for any questions that people may have here for the next few minutes. Going to go over everything here. You can see this keeping track of all my numbers for checks. You can also see all of the payments. So this is where that report is getting the information from, and it's going to get the information from these two date ranges from here to here. So there's a question if there's a updates to the report that has the W9 checkbox. There's not at this time. So this is the report here. That this is where it's going to be pulling all that information from that report. So all the payments are going to be from between January 1st and December 31st of this current year. So that report is for you to track. The one they're referring to is the driver roster, I believe. And you can print this off and mark if you have their W-9 as of today, and if they have paid. This was in managed drivers, and it has this one. Lets you print off the full list of drivers, and if you have their W-9 information. All right. So I'm gonna take attendance now. So if you would put your name and your track or tracks, I would gladly appreciate it. That's going to be where I'm going to kind of track everybody's attendance for sanction purposes. I know some sanctions are asking for that, and also for the drawing, to enter into the drawing for MyRacePass for the free 2021 race management, that $5.99 there. I know some of you have perfect attendance as well, and really do appreciate that. Close out some tabs here. This screen too, I don't mention it too much, but this is where that default car number is going to be pulling from as well. So it'll be there. So default car number, default transponder number. So if you want to change those in between races, you can. This is also where the points/pay page inside of season management, this car number is what it's going to be showing publicly. So I had a question of how do you know if you have a partner plan? You can actually see down at the bottom here, it'll say current subscription when you scroll down. I'm actually on a platinum plan, but so it'll show you that down at the bottom. The partner is the highest plan that we have. That's the $9.99 for the year. This track though is a little bit special, so it gets to do it gets to break some rules that unfortunately you guys don't get to do. I apologize. There isn't at this time, D. So you have a person that is going to rent to race in our mod light class. Each time someone rents the car, you would have to change the car number. Well, as long as you don't have the same, if the same person rents the same car every week, that's fine. Depending on what car they rent, but you actually don't have to mark the box for that. So, um, for example, it's always just going to use whatever is here. So you have your default car number right here. If you change it, as long as you don't check this box, it won't remember. And it won't also have any problems as long as it doesn't have the exact same number. So the 06 is different from the single numeral 6, things like that. So you would have to change the number, as it's a long-winded way. Okay, so it'll be a different driver each time the car is rented out. So yeah, each driver would have a different, you'd have to put in that number, that car number each time. But that's a good way of knowing who rented what. So are they going to be racing for points then on that? Is that a like okay. I was gonna say if they weren't racing for points, you might not want to check them all in. But yeah, okay. And then the default car number, um, it won't show with any default numbers if you don't put them in there. But what I've seen for something like quarter midgets, which don't have car numbers, is they use initials for the driver's car numbers in there. So they don't have car numbers. So something you might want to do for something like that is maybe put their default car number inside of managed drivers to their initials. Just a thought. You don't have to if you don't want to, but that way it shows with something instead of blanked out. Yeah, or you can enter in a car owner and do owner points. Yep, yep. You could put them in as their own car owner, but that wouldn't be right either because the track owns the car. Uh, but yeah, that's another thought. There's a lot of ways to do it. Uh, sorry if I don't. Sorry if I give wishy-washy answers sometimes, but sometimes there's a lot of ways to do it depending on exactly how uh, it goes. Tomorrow's tomorrow's are going to go over similar. We had a question if tomorrow's going over exactly the same information, and they are. Yeah, so both are the same. The common questions might be a bit different depending on some of the feedback that I get from the first. If there's a lot of questions or there's someone who brings something up that I'm like, ah, man, need to bring that into session 2. But as far as any of those goes, I'm going to be more kind of question focused, online registration in detail, confirming drivers, driver profiles. They're going to be sort of the same. Kind of the format. Sometimes we do break in between if they're a little less common or kind of more specialized, so that we can cover more ground and more people can get that information. And we've broken before. On Wednesday, we did race management that was different for IMCA and different for WISSOTA. So slightly different content, but kind of the same idea. But great questions. Going to leave it open here for the next few minutes. If we have any other questions about anything I've covered so far or anything covered today, happy to answer those. Alt and H is the spot to do that. Happy to answer those questions for y'all. Yeah, also keep in mind when you do make a lot of these changes that there is an event. There's an event lock of 30 days past the event. So in 30 days from today, whenever that would be, sometime in March, this would lock. Same with and also WISSOTA has their own locks, and I can't unlock those. You have to talk to WISSOTA. So once you apply points and they kind of approve those, same with WISSOTA, USRA, they lock those results after time. And if there's a WISSOTA class, you'll have to talk to, if it's a WISSOTA or USRA, you'll have to talk to the sanction. If it is a locked event, there's a request to unlock down at the bottom. And As long as you put in a reason there, we'll be able to do that. What programs outside of MRP will we need pulled up or installed? Really, if you're using a transponder system, you need the transponder system. Otherwise, you can just use MyRacePass. That'd be fine. Yep. Any other for really to use MyRacePass, really all you need is one. Some people use multiple computers. You certainly can. I've seen people use one computer. You can, and they run all throughout the racetrack. They get a lot of cardio. And I've also seen people that use multiple at the same time. It's really flexible, and you really only need to use, like I said, a transponder system if you're using transponders. And then if you are, MRP Live, so that you can link them together. If you need to get MRP Live, you can actually go into here, any race will do, and just download the application down at the bottom right here. It'll download that, and then you'll be good to go. Good to go. Jeez, what was that accent at the end there? Anyway, yeah, you can chat in. We got some good feedback, some good suggestions for folks about questions earlier on. All of these recordings are also going to be up on YouTube here. I try to add them in before noon Central Time. So generally when I get into the office after they're done processing, I add them in. You can find them into the help videos here. They're going to be on there's a special playlist, 2020 webinars. All of them are going to be there. If you'd like to relive some of those or go over something again, that is the spot to do it. So be sure to take a look out for that. Also, the knowledge base right here that goes over everything that we have in season management and race management. So we're good to go there. If you do have any questions, again, AltNH is the place to do it. I'm going to leave it open for questions for the next few minutes. Here, if anybody does have them, just let me know. I'm going to grab a quick drink of water, though. Oh, thank you. Stacy said it was a lot easier than I thought it would be. Glad to hear it. that's what we're here for. So no, that things like that make my day. So thanks for bringing that up. But yeah, we'll leave it open for the next few minutes here. Also show this best lap view. So if you ever have doing something like hot laps, qualifying, it'll pick up on that for the race name and switch it over to the best lap view for all of your fans watching. So that's really neat. If you have a special race that you feel they need to see best lap, you can put that in there, and you can edit those keywords and do that. We have some that we just put in for you, just kind of automatically. Well, did want to thank you all for taking the time out of your day to watch the webinars. Again, I'll be back again tomorrow, going over quite a bit there. So feel free to join in on that. So um, so be happy to do that and go over everything there. So thanks y'all so much. For attending, and hope you have a great rest of the night, and hope to see y'all tomorrow.